40% of Americans earning over $300,000 a year say they're living paycheck to paycheck. Goldman Sachs put that number out in their 2025 survey, and I genuinely had to reread it a few times before it sank in. People pulling home triple what the average American household earns, sitting across from their bank with a completely straight face, and saying they're one broken appliance away from a financial emergency. If you've ever stood in the office break room quietly staring at a coworker's watch, their car, their flawlessly curated vacation photos, wondering how the numbers possibly add up on their salary, the answer is they don't. They never did. My name is Nick, and I've put more time than I'd like to admit into reverse engineering exactly how the average American worker funds the lifestyle they're broadcasting to the world. Because once it clicks, the whole office starts to look completely different. The SUV in the parking lot, the kitchen renovation, the Cabo tan, none of it means what you think it means. This isn't a video about trimming your coffee budget. This is about a nationwide illusion that's been quietly running in the background for years, and the invoice is finally coming due. Hit subscribe. Let me unpack that Goldman number because it sets the table for everything else. 40% of $300,000 a year earners living paycheck to paycheck, not a handful of outliers, almost half of them. And here's the piece that should actually alarm you. That rate is higher than it is among people earning $100,000 to $200,000 a year, where it sits around 25%. So as income goes up, financial stress doesn't ease, it intensifies. That makes absolutely no sense until you see what's really happening under the surface. Your first reaction is probably what mine was. These people are exaggerating, or they're completely out of touch, or they're just venting for the attention. But Goldman didn't stop there. They asked why. The answer they got back? Lifestyle creep. Luxuries have become necessities. In plain terms, they spent every single raise they ever received. Got promoted, bought a bigger house, got a bonus, drove off in a nicer lease, got a windfall, booked a first-class flight, over and over again until the financial reality of a $300,000 salary ends up feeling exactly like the financial reality of a $60,000 one. Tight, suffocating, and quietly hopeless. And I'll be straight with you here. I'm not sitting above all of this. I've run the mental math in a parking lot. I've stared at a coworker's car and questioned my own financial decisions. We all have. That's precisely what makes this illusion so powerful. It works on sharp, intelligent people too. A Bank of America study from late 2024 found that nearly 1 in 5 households earning over $150,000 show behavioral signs consistent with living paycheck to paycheck, meaning nearly every dollar hitting the account is already allocated before it even arrives. Bankrate's 2025 data showed that 59% of all Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency out of their savings. 27% of American adults have literally zero emergency savings, the highest that number has been since 2020. So here's what's actually going on inside your office. Let's call him Greg. When Greg catches you at the copier and launches into his kitchen remodel, his Cancun trip, and his wife's new SUV, there is a very real possibility that Greg is also the guy who would completely unravel if his water heater gave out next Thursday. The watch, the car, the vacation photos, none of that proves Greg has money. It proves Greg spent money. Two completely different things. And our entire culture has spent decades convincing us they're the same. This is the first thing you need to lock into your head before anything else I say makes sense. Looking wealthy and actually being wealthy have almost nothing to do with each other. In fact, they tend to move in opposite directions. The Ramsey Solutions Millionaire Study, the largest behavioral study of real American millionaires ever conducted, found that the average millionaire drives a 4-year-old car with about 41,000 miles on it. That's the vehicle, not a G-Wagon. A 4-year-old Honda Pilot that's been through a family road trip and a Costco parking lot. Meanwhile, Greg is out here paying roughly $1,000 a month leasing a BMW X5 because it looks like what he thinks a millionaire drives. He is not a millionaire. He's broke in a better fitting jacket. But how exactly does he pull this off? How does the whole illusion hold up month after month? Grab something to eat, because this is where it gets genuinely uncomfortable. The short answer is debt. The long answer is that the debt has become a lot more creative. Let me walk you through the scaffolding one level at a time. Layer 1. Credit cards. As of Q4 2025, Americans are carrying $1.28 trillion in credit card debt. That's a T as in trillion. Total household debt in this country has now reached $18.8 trillion, the highest number ever recorded in history. The average credit card APR right now is sitting at roughly 21.5%, and the average balance for someone carrying debt is $7,886. 47% of cardholders are rolling a balance from one month to the next, up from 39% just 4 years ago. And here's the one that genuinely gets under my skin. 23% of people carrying credit card debt believe they will never pay it off. They've made peace with it. They are paying 21% interest in perpetuity. Layer 2. Buy now, pay later. This is the invisible weapon embedded in everyday life. Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm. It doesn't hit your credit report the same way conventional debt does, which is exactly why your coworker has no idea the person sitting next to them is floating on it. In 2025, LendingTree found that 25% of BNPL users were using it to buy groceries, up from 14% just the year before. But here's what nobody's saying out loud. 32% of BNPL users earning over $100,000 a year are using it to stretch to the next paycheck. That's the highest dependency rate of any income group. The top earners are the most hooked on what is essentially payday loan style financing just to get through an ordinary month. Ever notice how everyone's festival and vacation photos look completely effortless these days? Because admitting you're still paying for Coachella in September is mortifying. Billboard reported that roughly 60% of Coachella 2025 general admission buyers financed their ticket through Klarna. So when those festival photos flood your feed every April, a significant chunk of those people are still making payments on the experience well into the fall. 47% of BNPL users admitted to paying late in the past year, and 63% are running multiple BNPL loans at the exact same time. They're managing a personal portfolio of lifestyle debt. Layer 3. The auto loan. This is Greg's home turf. The average new car payment in America hit $772 a month in Q4 2025, an all-time record. But the detail that says everything, 20.3% of new car buyers, 1 in 5, are locking themselves into payments of $1,000 or more per month. Also a record. And 29.3% of trade-ins are underwater, meaning the buyer owes more on the car they're getting rid of than it's actually worth, with the average negative equity sitting at $7,214. They're rolling that loss into a brand new 84-month loan, 7 years. People are financing vehicles they'll still be paying off when the car is older than most kids in middle school. And the leases, the luxury ones filling up the parking lot, 70 to 75% of new Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, and Porsches in America are leased, not purchased outright. For German luxury EVs, that number climbs to 93%. Greg does not own the BMW. Greg is renting the BMW. In 3 years, BMW Financial takes it back, and Greg signs the paperwork on the next one. It is a never-ending subscription to the feeling of owning a BMW. So the scaffolding goes. Credit cards on the bottom, BNPL layered in the middle, a stretched auto loan sitting on top, and a fresh coat of paint across all of it. Which means the next time you walk past Greg's BMW in the lot, just remember, that's not Greg's car. That is BMW Financial's car. Greg pays the monthly rent on it. And that's only the debt you can actually see. What's invisible is where things get truly strange. Here's where the picture gets a lot more complex. Because everything I just laid out could be dismissed as poor personal choices, reckless spending, aesthetics winning over arithmetic. But the next layer isn't even their money to begin with. Savings.com ran a 2025 study on this, and the numbers are hard to sit with. 50% of parents with adult children over the age of 18 are sending their kids money on a consistent basis. The average monthly figure is $1,474. That's nearly $18,000 a year per adult child. And it isn't just covering rent for a 22-year-old still getting their footing. For Gen Z adults between 18 and 28, the amount flowing in from parents sits at around $813 a month. For millennials aged 29 to 44, it's still $863 a month. Yes, there are 40-year-olds collecting a monthly check from their parents. And the detail that reframes everything, Savings.com found that parents who are still in the workforce are sending 3 times more money to their adult kids than they are putting into their own retirement accounts. So that coworker whose lifestyle makes absolutely no financial sense on her salary, there's a very real chance the math is being constructed somewhere entirely outside her paycheck. Pew Research found that 44% of adults between 18 and 34 received direct financial support from their parents in the past 12 months, nearly half of all young adults. The National Association of Realtors reported that 22% of first-time home buyers in 2025 used family money for their down payment. Redfin's 2024 data pushed that even further. 36% of Gen Z and millennial buyers planning to purchase soon are counting on a cash gift from their parents to make it happen. That's up from 18% back in 2019. And then sitting underneath all of it is the biggest layer of all, the great wealth transfer. Cerulli Associates revised their projection in late 2024 to $124 trillion, up from the $84 trillion figure that had been cited for years. $124 trillion moving from boomers to their children and grandchildren over the next 2 decades. Here's what that means for your office specifically. Half of that, $62 trillion, is flowing from just 2% of households. Inheritance is not a shared experience. The overwhelming majority of it concentrates in a very small number of hands, and those people quietly blend into the same parking lot as everyone else. Except their math works because somebody else is doing the arithmetic for them. So the next time you're at the coffee machine quietly running envy math on Brenda's life, remember, she may not be financially outrunning you at all. She might simply be playing the same game with a completely different opening hand. You've been grinding the marathon from mile 1. She got dropped off at mile 22 in an Uber. You both crossed the finish line. Only one of you actually ran it. And Greg? There's a legitimate chance Greg's mom is sending him $800 a month that never comes up over sandwiches. That BMW isn't just rented from a bank, it's quietly underwritten by boomer wealth he will never once bring up at lunch. Here's the one your coworker is absolutely never going to mention over lunch. If they didn't inherit anything and they aren't buried in debt, there's a third explanation, and they are working significantly more than you realize. The Bureau of Labor Statistics dropped a genuinely jarring data point in November 2025. Over 9.3 million Americans were working multiple jobs at the same time. The highest raw count ever recorded since tracking began in 1994. That's 5.7% of all employed Americans, the largest share in 25 years. Half of those multiple job workers hold a college degree. This is no longer a broke college student phenomenon. It is a fully credentialed, salaried, 34-year-old reality. Then there's the broader side hustle economy. Bankrate found that 36% of American adults were running some kind of side hustle in 2024. And 41% of those people used that money for discretionary spending. The lifestyle stuff. Vacations, dinners out, a new wardrobe, not survival, enjoyment. So when your coworker casually drops $600 on a weekend trip without blinking, that money may have never touched her primary salary at all. It came from the Etsy shop, the DoorDash weekends, or the freelance work she's never once brought up in a team meeting. And then there's the phenomenon almost nobody is talking about openly. Overemployment. A 2023 Resume Builder survey of fully remote workers found that 79% had secretly held 2 or more remote jobs within the past year. 36% were doing it at the exact moment they completed the survey. 34% were pulling in over $100K combined across all of those roles. Fortune ran a feature in August 2025 profiling workers holding 3, 4, even 5 remote positions simultaneously, earning $725,000 a year and using AY tools to hit every single deadline across the board. Sit with that for a moment. You think you're sharing an office with 40 colleagues. Statistically, some of them may be fully clocked into a different company at the exact same time. Greg isn't just on an unusually long bathroom break. Greg may be on a Zoom call for a completely separate full-time job, running 2 careers side by side. The camera is off for a very specific reason. When you're running envy math on your coworker's lifestyle, you might be stacking your one income against their hidden 2. You're running the race completely clean. He's got an e-bike in his bag and a GPS tracker tucked in his shoe, and he still looks completely hollow by 3 p.m. Because he genuinely is. That dead-eyed stare Greg has every afternoon isn't standard burnout. It's a second stand-up meeting he still has to get through. Let me give you one final reframe before I get into what you should actually do with all of this. The visible things your coworker puts on display, the watch, the designer bag, the car, the full renovation, those are not wealth. They are, almost by architectural design, the direct opposite of wealth. They are wealth's understudies. There is a concept in economics called inconspicuous consumption. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Marketing by Hahn, Nunes, and Doxey found something that has never left me. The wealthiest consumers consistently gravitate toward luxury goods with understated, barely visible branding, small logos, quiet signals, nothing that announces itself across the room. Meanwhile, the consumers who spend the highest percentage of their income on luxury goods tend to reach for the loudest, most recognizable branding regardless of what's actually sitting in their account. Put simply, the bigger the logo, the less actual money tends to be standing behind it. Real wealth is quiet. Performed wealth is deafening. Picture 2 men at the same restaurant. One is in a plain cashmere sweater, no visible logo anywhere, a clean, modest watch, drove up in a 5-year-old Lexus. He has $4 million to his name. 3 tables over, another man is wearing a designer belt that announces itself from across the room, a loud watch on his wrist, a Range Rover Sport sitting out front. He has $12,000 in his checking account and a HELOC nobody in his life even knows about. Both of them are projecting something. Only one is projecting actual wealth. The other is projecting the performance of wealth. I'll bet everything I have that you notice the second man first. The data confirms this in some genuinely uncomfortable ways. The Hermes Birkin, long positioned as the ultimate investment piece, has seen its resale premium collapse from 2.2 times retail in 2022 down to just 4 times by late 2025. Rolex prices on the secondary market are down more than 15% from their 2022 peak. Patek Philippe Nautilus models dropped roughly 30% in a single year alone. If you had placed $10,000 into a Birkin a decade ago, it would be worth approximately $19,000 today. If you had put that exact same $10,000 into the S&P 500 over the same window, you'd be sitting somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000. The market quietly annihilated the status symbol. Nobody's going viral off that story because there's nothing aesthetic about index funds. And the subscription drain, the small recurring stuff that flies completely under the radar, is quietly bleeding people out too. C+R research found that Americans believe they spend around $86 a month on subscriptions. The actual number is $219. That's a $1,600 a year blind spot that most people are never accounting for. 42% of people admit they are actively paying for subscriptions they completely forgot existed. Your coworker isn't just fighting a car payment every month. He's also getting slowly bled by 6 streaming services, 2 fitness apps, and a meditation app he last opened sometime in early 2022. So the next time you look at your coworker's life and feel like you're somehow falling behind, take a real breath and understand what you are actually looking at. A stage set. Props financed through various lenders. A costume running on a 4-year payment plan. And a guy who genuinely cannot afford to call out sick on a random Tuesday. So where does all of this leave you? Hopefully, in a better headspace than where you started. Because here is what nobody in that office is going to walk up and tell you directly: you are not behind. You are not doing it wrong. The people you've been quietly measuring yourself against are largely running a very expensive production. And the price of admission is their entire financial future. Remember the 40% of 300K earners living paycheck to paycheck? Those are the exact people you've been running to keep pace with. That is the finish line you're sprinting toward. And that is the trap. Real wealth in America looks almost unremarkable. The Ramsey Millionaire study of over 10,000 actual American millionaires found that 79% inherited nothing. 33% never had a single year in their entire working career where they broke 6 figures. The top 5 occupations among millionaires: in order: engineer, accountant, teacher, management, and attorney. Teacher is in the top 5, not surgeon, not tech founder, teacher. 8 out of 10 invested consistently through their workplace 401k. 94% spent less than they earned every single year without exception. Roughly 3 out of 4 had never once carried a credit card balance in their lives. They drove paid-off Toyotas. They lived in houses that didn't make anyone in the neighborhood envious. They were not on Instagram. And the number that should permanently reframe the way you see car payments: if you take the current average new car payment of $772 a month, and instead of handing that to a lender every month, you invest it from age 25 to 65 at historical market returns, you walk away with over $6 million. $6 million. That is the precise financial distance between the coworker signing a lease on the BMW and the quiet coworker still driving the 2019 Camry. Same salary, different vehicle, a completely different financial destination. One of them is living loudly right now. The other is quietly building something that will outlast everyone else in the lot. So the next time Greg rolls into the office kitchen sporting a new watch and a fresh cabotan, do not spiral. Do not compete. Do not panic open your banking app. Just smile, nod, and go quietly automate a contribution to your 401k. Knock down whatever balance is draining you every month, and keep driving your car until the wheels physically give out. Because 15 years from now, when the music stops and the loans come due and the parental wire transfers stop coming, the person you used to envy is going to be the one quietly pulling you aside at a different coffee maker, asking how you managed to build what you built while nobody was watching. That is the real story behind how your coworkers afford the lifestyle you've been comparing yourself to. Most of them don't actually afford it. You just haven't seen the bill yet. Hit the like button, subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and I'll see you in the next one.